This is R2D Tech and we're back again with another video today, this time about the Lenovo X1 Fold, so stay tuned. So this is one of the most exciting products that we've seen this year. We touched on it briefly in one of our earlier videos, but now that it's actually been released, we're going to take a second look. So basically it's a large tablet that can fold in half into basically a book if you want it to, and it can also act as a laptop if you want it to. So a lot of flexibility in terms of your use case here. In my opinion, however, it's not quite ready for the mass market. That's pretty clear from the pricing at just under $3,000, which is pretty insane. So it's clearly not for everyone just yet. However, there is some really interesting technology here, so we're going to take a look. So from a design standpoint, we've seen some two-in-one ThinkPad devices in the past from Lenovo, and to be honest, the X1 Fold on the outside looks pretty similar to the tablet parts of those. Now, the mind-blowing part happens when you see that you can actually fold the entire device in half, which is pretty crazy, especially on such a large device, because we've seen foldable devices in the past year, but they have tiny displays or relatively small displays compared to this, like on the Galaxy Fold from Samsung. So that folding display is a 13.3-inch display, which is basically exactly the same as most 13-inch laptops, which is pretty great. It does have a pretty thick bezel around the side, which is made out of a rubberized plastic material. I imagine because rubber folds really easily, so that's a useful material, especially around the hinge. Now, however, it's not a cheap plastic material in any way, so no worries there. Now, the back of the device is covered in leather, which is an interesting choice. It does feel premium, but I imagine it's not going to be too popular with animal lovers. What's nice, however, is that there is a built-in kickstand at the back which folds outwards. So you can basically use the device as a desktop computer in a way if you have the additional keyboard as well. But we'll definitely talk about those features later. What I think is also pretty cool is that when you fold the device, the leather on the back actually slides over, revealing some of the glass on the back, which is just a pretty cool feature in my opinion. A few more impressive things about this device, as if it didn't already have enough. It only weighs 0.99 kg, which is pretty light for a normal laptop, and considering the amount of technology that's gone into this, I think that's a pretty impressive number. What's also really impressive in my opinion is that there appears to be no crease in the screen where the device folds in half, which is really impressive in my opinion because all the foldable devices that we've seen in the past year have had slight creases where the device folds. So I just think that's pretty impressive. I imagine that's due to the way they designed the hinge as well as the material they used in the glass. In terms of specs, all of the specs look pretty similar to what you'd find in a 13-inch Ultrabook laptop. So an Intel Core i5 processor with, strangely enough, 5 cores, which is pretty weird. Then the only option, unfortunately, for RAM is 8 gigabytes up to a terabyte of SSD storage and Intel integrated UHD graphics. So pretty standard specs there. However, the specs don't really need to stand out in my opinion because everything else is just so impressive. Then for the battery, you are getting a 50 watt hour battery, which is pretty large considering the size of the device. So that's pretty impressive as well. A couple more things on that display. So as we said, it's a 13.3-inch display. It's actually an OLED panel with a resolution of 2K. So not the most impressive display, but not bad either. So the device will be running Windows 10, obviously, which in my opinion is not the best operating system for a tablet. However, it is still improving, and hopefully we will see bigger improvements over the next year with more devices like this coming out. However, obviously you can also use this device as a laptop if you want to, which we will get onto. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, because I think Windows is the best operating system for a two-in-one laptop at the moment. So let's move on to those accessories now, and they are a pretty important part of the whole experience. So with the base model of this device, you are getting the stylus included, which I think is a pretty impressive feature to have. In the past, like on the Samsung Galaxy Fold, the display was too fragile to be able to have a stylus to write on it. So I think the fact that they've made the display tough enough to be able to take a stylus on the surface is pretty impressive. The other major accessory is the keyboard, which unfortunately doesn't come with the base model. You have to pay an extra $100 if you want it. Now what's cool about the keyboard is that if you actually fold the device so it's at a right angle, you can place the keyboard on top of the flat part, and it basically becomes a small laptop with kind of like just under a 10-inch display, which I think is still pretty cool to have almost a full-size keyboard with a 10-inch display in such a small form factor. I think that's pretty cool. The keyboard does also have a tiny trackpad on it as well, which seems to work pretty well. That's also a nice little feature. Now, if you want to, you can also have the device completely unfolded and flat and pop out the kickstand so that you can have it basically in a desktop setup with the keyboard just before it as well. So that's also a pretty cool use case. There are so many different ways that you can use this device, which I think is probably the coolest part. So for ports, you're not getting a massive port selection. You get two USB-C ports and a headphone jack, and that's it. So basically the same as what you get on the MacBook Air. I imagine for most people, this won't be such a massive problem. So the biggest question is, should people buy this device right now? And my answer would be definitely no. Firstly, because the technology just hasn't been tested enough. We saw in the first Galaxy Fold that there were just so many issues with the fragility of the display, and the same issues could be present on this device. Secondly, obviously that price tag is just absolutely insane, and unless you have $3,000 to just throw away, then I imagine you're not going to be getting this device anyway. However, the best thing about Lenovo releasing this device is that they get to test the technology so they can use it in future products, and hopefully in the near future we'll have a much more polished product that's ready for the mass market. However, right now I don't think it's quite ready yet. That's it from this video. If you liked it, please press the thumbs up button. If you loved it, please consider subscribing.